Hello and welcome to UWS News. I'm Fiona Mackie.
And I'm Selina Mclean.
Rejecting the Brexit deal will be risky and lead to division and uncertainty, Prime Minister Theresa May will say to MPs who oppose her plan, Ludovica Muttini reports.
Prime Minister Theresa May convinced EU leaders to approve the terms of the UK's exit. Now she has to persuade the UK Parliament to back the deal. 2 years on, and the British public is still divided, as more than 700,000 people marched in central London asking for a second referendum.
Of the rise of Russia, Middle East and China, it is very important for the Western democracies to stay together. If we leave, we then become a sole, small country, and there is no point in going back to the days of the empire. That no longer exists.
Large sections of our public funding for our public social services come from European grants. And though we give money to Europe, we get a hell of a lot more money back as well. There's an interchange. And also we've got people coming over from Europe who are working here. We have a lot of European nurses and doctors, and boy do we need them. And we want them very much.
While Liberal Democrats MPs such as Vince Cable are anti-Brexit, Labour MP Graham Stringer said we can't ignore the 2016 referendum.
If there was to be a second referendum, that it would completely devalue any future referendum. If you have a second referendum before you've implemented the first one, what credibility does any future referendum hold if you devalue democracy?
The 16 Days campaign launched today with local events taking place to raise awareness of the effect domestic abuse has in the workplace. Our reporter Nicole Cassells has more.
Ayrshire Council is helping to raise awareness on violence against women and children as part of the worldwide 16 Days campaign. An informative lunch was held in Ayr College today to mark the second day of the programme. We spoke to Police Scotland and South Ayrshire Council to find out more.
Every year throughout the world, from the 25th of November to the 10th of December, there are 16 days of action, and it's around raising awareness of domestic abuse, of violence against women. And within Ayrshire alone, across the Ayrshire, all the partners have got together and having different events and activities to help raise awareness of this issue.
So what you'll find is across the 3 local authority areas, we're all doing different initiatives to just try and raise the profile of ending violence against women.
Even this week, it started yesterday, there was different events raised in North Ayrshire about suffragettes. Today we've had the working lunch. On Wednesday there's East Ayrshire Council, the Violence Against Women Partnership are having a conference, and we're having a Reclaim the Night walk in Ayrshire, and we're having a conference in North Ayrshire.
Nicole Cassells reporting for UWS News.
Viewing figures for news outlets are falling and media companies are losing money and paying off journalists up and down the country. Susie Paterson went out on campus to try and find out where people are getting their news.
You're a girl with a smartphone, a girl of the modern age and media savvy. Where do you get your news from?
The TV, on the news, because it's in my house, like my gran watches that.
Every night?
Yeah, at 6 o'clock.
Nowadays, I don't have much time to spend on, I download news apps, so news pops up, and I can just read the headlines of that, and that's what I'm doing for mine.
I don't watch the news to get news. If I was to get anything about what pops up on my phone.
Social media on my phone.
Which platforms do you prefer?
Twitter, Facebook, kind of stuff like that. Really.
I get it mainly online and through the radio.
Do you ever buy a newspaper?
Very rarely, very rarely.
It sounds as though the majority of people are getting their news from the internet, is that true?
Yes, most people I spoke to today answered that they got their news online. Only 2 out of 20 actually said that they didn't use internet platforms such as Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. Only the people who drove cars said that they heard the news on the radio, which wouldn't surprise you, and only one person said that they ever bought a newspaper.
And why is this being talked about just now?
Well, last week I was in Edinburgh at the annual News Exchange conference, where producers and journalists talk for 2 days endlessly about things that concern the world of journalism. And one big topic is the loss of money in a lot of media companies and the staff that are being paid off, trained and experienced staff that are being paid off. So the word that was being bandied around a lot is diversity. And the idea, I think, is that everyone's beginning to realise that to bring some of the audiences that they've lost back, they have to re-engage them in a different way.
So what are the issues?
Basically, time and access, easy access to internet journalism is the big convenience that everybody relies on so heavily. Interestingly, we spoke to one Indian student today who said that in India newspapers are still huge, and that her dad, for example, still bought 2 papers a day, but the key thing was he spent about half the day reading them. So it's a different tradition there. Mm-hmm.
Is it habit that defines how people get their news?
It is in part. I think ease of access and the fact that it's free when it comes on the internet, I think that's a contributing factor. Nowadays, nobody really expects to pay for their news, and unfortunately, good, reliable journalism is expensive to produce.
So what can get people back into watching TV news?
Well, I don't know that the huge audiences of before will ever be regained, to be honest. People have just really found an alternative method of getting their news. But to create trust through having sources that are known to be reliable and fact-checking is done, and so it can eliminate all the falsification of some of the press that has got some journalism a bit of a bad name, would be important. But I think also the formats, the old traditional formats, particularly for presenting political news, have to be looked at again and changed. 2 arguing politicians sitting behind a desk doesn't interest anybody anymore. That's really done, it's finished with. Younger people need to be involved in content and in presentation, and diversity and cultural ethnicity need to be better represented as well, so that what's relevant to all communities across the nation is represented there, it's out there.
Thank you, Susie. Our reporter Dominic Cassidy went to the annual Scottish Trade Union Congress Anti-Racism March and talked to those involved.
On Saturday the 24th of November, the Scottish Trade Union Congress held its annual St Andrew's Day Anti-Racism March. Leading the march this year was the Justice for Sheku Bayou group, who sought justice for the alleged murder of the Fife man at the hands of the police. The march had people from all walks of life, from union men, art students, Antifa and socialists. There was a large pro-Palestinian voice there, and we talked to Michael Napier from the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign.
I wouldn't miss it. It's a really important annual event where people can come together to protest against and declare their readiness to fight against this racism that blights our society.
We talked to Labour MSP Anas Sarwar, who walked with Mr Bayou's family leading the march.
Look, I think it's a really significant moment that Sheku Bayou's family have come to Glasgow to lead the march for us, the anti-racism march. And I think just like they want justice for Sheku Bayou, I think we all want justice for Sheku Bayou. I think that's a really important moment for us.
We then talked to Adele Kane, a student who attends rallies often.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important to show solidarity with people, and that someone gets comfort from this sort of thing in terms of if you've been a victim of racism or you're part of the fight against racism. I think it's really important to see a march and to see people who are on your side kind of thing.
The march, a long-standing staple of the city, shows year on year the solidarity people are willing to show and how many Glaswegians are ready to take to the streets, handing out flyers, chanting and making speeches to try and see that change come to fruition.
And Christmas has come early. As the markets return to Glasgow this weekend, UWS reporter Carla Buscema has more.
Christmas, time of the year to celebrate, eat some of the most delicious food, spend time with family and friends. In Glasgow, what certainly cannot miss are the annual German markets. We went in St Enoch and George Square to find out what people most liked about the Christmas stands this year.
My favorite part about Glasgow Christmas Market is that it has so many places where you can eat. It also has entertainment like karaoke and the Ferry wheel. It's beautiful decorated. People are always so happy.
I would say the food stalls, that's why we're here.
Yes, the Indian stuff was great.
We went to a few pubs and they were so busy, we thought we'll come to the food stalls.
My favorite thing about Christmas market is everything. Like the lights, the atmosphere, the food, it's amazing.
My favourite part about the Glasgow Christmas market so far has been all the different smells. I love the smells of all the sweet things and all the savoury things.
Reporting for UWS News, Carla Buscema.
Thank you, Carla. This has been UWS News. I've been Selina Mclean.
And I'm Fiona Mackie. Join us again next time. Goodbye.